In boxing, there are moments that shift the sport's trajectory. Nights where the underdog becomes the myth, and the myth becomes a legend. November 15th, 2003. A relatively unknown Filipino southpaw named Manny Pacquiao stepped into the ring at the Alamodome in Texas.
The IBF Super Bantamweight Champion of the World, Manny Pacman Pacquiao.
Against one of Mexico's best fighters, Marco Antonio Barrera.
The baby-faced assassin, Marco Antonio Barrera.
Most thought this was a showcase fight for Barrera. It became a reckoning. By 2003, Marco Antonio Barrera wasn't just a champion. He was a craftsman of violence.
You wanted to see executions. You didn't think anybody was going to beat him. Everybody he fought looked like they were about to die.
A ring general with over a decade of elite experience, Barrera stood atop boxing's mountain. Ranked as high as number 3 in the world pound for pound, behind only the undisputed kings. They called him the baby-faced assassin, but the nickname masked the danger beneath. Barrera was a technician, brutal but methodical. He didn't just beat opponents, he outclassed them. He dismantled Prince Nassim Hamed, turning hype into humility. He went to war with Eric Morales in a trilogy that left scars on both men's souls. He toyed with legends like Johnny Tapia and made them look ordinary. To many, Barrera was the heir to Julio Cesar Chavez's throne, a fighter who mixed the art of boxing with the grit of the Mexican fighting spirit. Manny Pacquiao didn't come from boxing royalty. He came from the dust, the struggle. Born in the province of Bukidnon, raised in General Santos City, Manny's early life was marked by hunger. Not just the hunger for greatness, literal hunger. Sleeping on cardboard floors, selling bread on the streets. Fighting became less of a sport and more of a survival strategy. He turned pro before he was legally allowed to in the US, fighting grown men as a teenager. Fighting often, fighting anywhere. His style, chaotic, unorthodox, all offense, no caution. But within the chaos, a rhythm, a thunderous left hand and a fire that never dimmed. His breakout in America came with the demolition of IBF champion Lelo Ledwaba in 2001, a short-notice replacement that shocked the world. But Barrera was different. This wasn't a replacement fight, it was a reckoning. Manny was moving up in weight, fighting a legend in a hostile crowd in Texas. The odds were stacked like bricks, but legends aren't born in comfort, they're forged in chaos. Most saw it as a coronation for Barrera, but it became something else entirely. A baptism of fire for both men. Pacquiao slipped in the opening seconds of the fight, and it was ruled a knockdown incorrectly.
Yes, Lawrence Cole's going to call that a knockdown as he motions Barrera to a neutral corner and applies the count, and already Barrera has knocked Pacquiao down, and Pacquiao saying why? Why'd you call that a knockdown?
Now let's see what happened on that knockdown, or was it a knockdown?
A straight left landed by Pacman. When he landed, he twisted his body in an angle where he lost his balance.
It was not a punch.
Definitely not a punch.
Shouldn't have been called a knockdown.
I scored that round 10-9 for Barrera.
But Barrera is much more aggressive than I expected. Normally when he fights southpaws, he's more of a conservative, laid-back counterpuncher.
Barrera seems to have come in here with the idea of fighting fire with fire, Manny.
Yes, he's changing. He's making Pacquiao back, something that Pacquiao was not prepared for.
Pacquiao has been getting his left hand in, just like there. He's had 4 or 5 of them, 6 in the last 30 seconds.
Is this going to be a good fight? Because neither guy is going to accept the other guy controlling the fight.
Manny comes back with body shots of his own. Hard left hand, straight on the button by Pacquiao. Down goes Barrera. He's been knocked knockdown 3 times in his career.
By round 3, Barrera had already tasted the canvas. Not from a mistake, but from a straight left hand he couldn't read.
There are probably some in this arena who didn't really know who Manny Pacquiao was or what his chances might be against Marco Antonio Barrera. Now they know as Pacquiao tries to go ahead and finish Barrera right here in the 3rd round. And he's getting reckless, and Barrera takes advantage. That's the most desperate look I've ever seen on Marco Antonio's face. Pacquiao is strafing Barrera with left hands. Marco's hanging in now. He's tasted the power, but Manny's having another big round.
Yep.
It's been a power-punching festival for Manny Pacquiao. Quicker than Barrera, longer than Barrera, more aggressive than Barrera, landing harder than Barrera.
But Pacquiao...
Another hard left hand for Pacquiao, who's getting a chance to target.
This is where
Round after round, Pacquiao surged forward. Volume, power, relentlessness. Barrera tried to adjust, but it wasn't enough.
It's not a knockdown. Tangled up. I'll tell you what, that was a hard left hand.
Underneath, and Barrera was off balance.
With Pacquiao firing combinations and landing them.
Right here, you see Pacquiao shooting a straight left, and while he's finishing up here, his head accidentally bangs in. I mean, it is something that was definitely an accident. I think the fact that Barrera is uncomfortable with the way the fight is going, he wanted to use as an excuse possible to have the fight terminated.
Time running out on Marco Antonio Barrera, who hasn't won enough rounds to really be in the fight and hasn't shown enough power versus Pacquiao to turn this thing around. Pacquiao lands a left hand. Barrera counters back with a left and a right. Big punches from Pacquiao, and again the power deficit shows. What a fight!
is Barrera prepared to fight?
Pacquiao's really finding a home for that straight left and that right jab over the shoulder. And Pacquiao is smart. He's not really throwing hard punches now. He's throwing volumes of punches. Just enough to keep him busy and to try to do more damage to that cut.
Pacquiao just hammering him. Just hammering him. Right and left. Pacquiao annihilating a guy who was universally ranked coming in as one of the 5 or 6 best pound-for-pound fighters in the sport.
I think Barrera almost went down from exhaustion.
Yes.
Fighters in the world. One of the most complete fighters in the world.
One of the most knockdown fighters in the world right at this moment. No, this is the knockdown in this round. Yeah. This is the knockdown where Barrera, as Larry said, went down basically from exhaustion.
In round 11, the corner made the call. The baby-faced assassin was stopped, not by attrition, but by an arrival.
Man is up on the apron. He's going to step into the ring. That's a good decision. Finally. They could have done that 2 rounds ago.
A great finish by Pacquiao. An awesome young fighter.
Awesome.
The winner and new featherweight champion of the world, Manny Pacman Pacquiao.
That moment, that night, wasn't just a win. It was a rupture in the sport's timeline, a moment where boxing's global boundaries were shattered. Manny Pacquiao, once unknown, once unwanted, had arrived as something greater, a symbol for his people, a storm in human form. For Barrera, the loss didn't erase his greatness. He remained a legend. But on that night, the torch was passed. For Pacquiao, it was just the beginning. He would go on to win world titles in 8 different weight divisions, from flyweight to welterweight, fighting giants, shocking legends, carrying an entire nation on his shoulders. He wasn't just a fighter. He became the people's champion, a congressman, a cultural icon, and the face of global boxing for nearly 2 decades. And now, over 20 years later, Manny Pacquiao steps into the ring again, at 45 years old, preparing to face WBC welterweight champion Mario Barrios. He's not supposed to be here. He's not supposed to still have speed, or strength, or that look in his eyes. But somehow, he does. At 45 years old, most fighters have long faded into memory. But Pacquiao, part fighter, part phenom, refuses to fade. Longevity this rare isn't normal, but then again, nothing about the night Pacquiao arrived was normal. Fighters fade, legends retire, but Manny Pacquiao just keeps rewriting the rules. Because nothing about that night in 2003, nothing about the night Pacquiao arrived was normal. And maybe that's the point. If you enjoyed this breakdown, consider dropping a like, subscribing, and sharing with other boxing fans. This is OMR Boxing, and this was the night a humble fighter from the Philippines changed boxing forever.